the big story is Joe Burrow and his toe injury that is going to keep him now sidelined for 3 months. And it is, you never want to say, I told you so when it comes to injuries or anything of the sort. But we did caution that this was going to be a concern for the Cincinnati Bengals this season. And one of the things we had talked about in the season preview with everything leading up to this was, can this team bank on a historically good offense 2 seasons in a row? And unless Jake Browning is this generation's Kurt Warner, it would appear that that answer is no. And this is just, once again, mismanagement by the Cincinnati Bengals. And we can talk about where, like, Joe Burrow's role in this, where he wanted his guys back in. And I think obviously the one that is going to be debated is T. Higgins, because this is now twice where this organization has picked a star receiver over solidifying an offensive line. The Chase one, win-win on both sides, right? Penei Sewell is probably the best offensive lineman, or one of the best offensive linemen in the National Football League, while Jamar Chase is at worst the second best receiver in the NFL. So you win some, you lose some on that one. But with T. Higgins, they decided to lock him up instead of improving the offensive line. Now, I will say, that is the easy kind of course to take with that. And honestly, it might be the easy one because it might also be the correct one. But I would also like to say that teams get around salary cap stuff all the time in the NFL. And I'm not talking in a Kawhi Leonard sense of getting around the salary cap. I am talking about how I am sure that the Bengals aren't 53 for 53 on great value contracts on their roster. You can make the Higgins signing, you can make the Hendrickson signing, and the Chase signing, and still probably find room to address what was going on the offensive line. And instead, they are going into the season relying on their franchise quarterback being able to bail them out. And honestly, the fact that the injury that is going to significantly impact his season for the third time in 6 seasons, they're all basically almost lucky that it's just a toe injury and not something more severe, given the punishment that this guy takes on a week in, week out basis. So I feel like this was entirely preventable and entirely predictable from the Bengals. And it's what we talked about. And look, we're talking about a 2-0 football team. But do they feel like a 2-0 football team to you? Because they don't to me. At no point has this felt like, oh yeah, these guys got it. At no point has it felt like that. It has felt like they are facing two teams that aren't going to be real playoff contenders in the NFL, and they were able to get by. And I get doing the NFL math thing can be tricky, and we're going to have a tough time with that today. But you look at what the Bengals did against the Browns in week number 1, and you look at what the Ravens did against the Browns in week number 2, and it ain't close. And you look at what they should be doing against this Jacksonville team, and that can be a bit of a concern as well. And this is, again, the fail to address the offensive line. Now Joe Burrow is hurt. Also, I still don't think they did enough to shore up that defense. Yes, fantastic. You drafted Shamar Stewart first overall. That doesn't mean, okay, check, get to just done and dusted. Great, fantastic. That's not the case at all. This team focused on one area of their club to try to improve, didn't improve that enough, and neglected what was probably an equally big problem in Cincinnati, and now they are paying for it as Joe Burrow is going to be missing 3 months of football, according to Adam Schefter on social media today. So the Bengals are obviously in a very difficult spot right now because there's no catching the Ravens without Joe Burrow. And it's great that Browning was able to do what he did to be able to come up with a victory against Jacksonville. I would suggest they lose to most teams in that game. And now that teams have an opportunity to scout and get ready for Browning, it's going to be a problem for the Bengals here. So it is a huge setback for Cincinnati and hopefully a wake-up call that something and multiple somethings have to be done on the offensive line to get this team where they need to get to. Just the other part of this, Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence is looking better, for sure. It is still not at an elite caliber, certainly not. It is probably better than it looked a season ago. Brown with a really tough drop in the end zone. Thomas, maybe not as involved as people would like over the last couple of weeks, but the offense is looking better than it had a season ago. So at least some signs of optimism for Jacksonville. But given Burrow's injury at that point in the game, this is a football game that Jacksonville should win if they were going to take that step next into playoff contender for the upcoming season. So a tough one for Jacksonville, but a really, really weird to say, but a very tough win for the Cincinnati Bengals in week number 2.